Jappy Jack among
Hi, now on mute.
Sociological comedian, his house about him with invariable broad stretched juke and calicut fingers. At one time annoying sea earwicker. Jesse's right occasion. Our Cadum Villa.
Mia, that was such a beautiful piece you sent.
Oh, thank you.
For flesh.
Oh, I cleaned it up. I sent you the
Star tool
really.
in June.
I get excited and I send before I show.
That was beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
I got a note from Elizabeth. Thank you for sending it.
Jergensen's shrapnel.
I so enjoyed last night.
And commutative justice that there is not one tittle of hyper-pituitary
Wait a little bit.
Gelgas's scholars' apple trees, and link boys' metals cross Eblin's chilled hamlet, subjects of peace and soul. Their pretty shrouds, a house of talk at Puya's place, old socks rolled by setting matches join that big variety. Juiced after taking their liquor, the highway
Let the sounds filter in. Thank you all for coming here tonight. Momentarily. This is the book. So everybody in the series is, mostly everybody in the series is in the book. And the idea is to sort of like explore what that means. To us, to them. It's time that we're in where we're trying to figure out what it means to have this thing. The readers tonight will be Anselm Berrigan, Rae Armantrout, Stephen Vitiello, and Annie Samojedny. I'll read their bios. Their full bios are in the chat. I'll read a brief bio before they appear. And I'll start with this piece. Stephen, I'm going to mute your birds. Elizabeth is over there on the screen. Find her on your own, as you wish. And I'll do this piece sort of watching her. For leave us unsettling, save us unsettling, trail us untellable tales of our settling. Fail us our bellowing, harrowed and hailed by our failure to follow us. Follow the fellow us, trailed in the full of us, fallible follows at sea, how we orbit our leave to be full of us. Healed in the hollow, we steal what becomes of us. Saved what we made of us. Sorrow the soil we surround our unsettling. Leave us unsettling. Save us unsettling. Trail us untellable tales of our settling. Fragile ascensions of Mayfair and water by. Rain though some daughter by. Pain low some flutter by. 5 mortal loner be. Lower my lower eye called out of worry. I will see to woe. Was the fellow to follow, I trailed by the follow, I soloed the sorrow to heal what I borrowed. I came to my sorrow by healing the hollow eye. Here, in my corner, I'm with you, not alone. Erasing the visible, the letting go. Entering the marks I make, the ones I leave. Entering my leave. I'm with you. In my corner, nowhere to go. The starting and stopping, relentless. Continuously entering what I left. Erasing the visible. The letting go. It isn't until our ground is erased that we get to start over. Anselm Berrigan has a new book called Pregrets, which will be published by Black Square Editions. The rest of his bio is in the chat. Anselm?
Hey, Edwin. Hey, everybody. Can you hear me? All right. Nice to see you, and in some cases, your names. I'm going to read one poem first from The Body and Language, and this poem is called Pregrets. How many bites the glance at the cosmos worth tonight? Palmetto bug with hand-held bellows threatens, on an inward suggestive tip, a takeover of directional collection. Correction? We get those confused, phrasingly. Tin can pocket watch and chain plate, untitled. Sclatchings into bereavers, bodies unerringly ripped apart, and ponderer, you may or may not build your images into a likeness of my picture. First take away the hills, distracted from sleep by hadrons and their typos, divisions of seconds, grets freely hatched, dinky asymmetry the cause of so many chintzy allegories, educating your hapless ass in the poorly rendering star charts. By day a shallow bay, night a phosphor menace of a surface, flashing hypno-visio green without contradiction, as in the dahlias, black ballast to balance the construction, sharp olive green, brown, and black accents of holothurians, an operating room atmosphere. Arms don't bend like that. Composed yellow, clothes red, A into with, an abandoned idea for a pick? To count on the take apart. Get back to the spaceship, chickens. These are two recent pieces And this first one is called Last Thrift. The feeling inside my apartment, seems to require cat hair everywhere and joyful, anxious, sick people. Ack, am I careening? Pandemically and regrettably yours, yes, pickled, we plots, blips to loop, an empanada from the throngified bikeways, thwacked with zombified droplays. I did glove that empanada in a hospicity, 'cause my borrowed blue bandana's a portal to Zebraic tenderness. So I flame on and splay home and bug out discreetly, bumming antenna from broken bodies. Sometimes the roaches in the wall mutter in disbelief at the notion Purple Rain was Prince's idea of a Bob Seger imitation, and pour from invisible cracks to form a giant crystal question mark that refuses to writhe or scurry, with a shadow broken into a grin, from which some golden egg tempera paint is flowing, bypassing daemons to form a ladder made of bluebells. And the tigers are recovering, and the girls are inspecting the pink fire escape for slants of light, and inside the hairy Siberians, Nesh and Frankie embody a nodding question, furry spoon by furry spoon. That's for Ron Padgett. And this piece is called Poem Inspired by Everything, for Charles North, who's got a new book of poems called Everything and Other Poems, which I found a lot of comfort in reading when all this shit started to go down. Poem Inspired by Everything. I would just like to point out, but I always end up pointing in. Everyone's holier than thou, and I'm definitely rolling the dice. A camo-clad gent with dark beer a good 16 fiats away exclaims, just as I was measuring how to use inkling in a work. This report brought to you by the Tompkins Square Park social distancing fretwork, and Aaron Shurin's elegant purple mask on Instagram matching a doubled pair of purple gloves I cycled by on B a minute ago. They did possess hands, attached to gaily striding arms, accompanied by too comfortable, a projection, smiles. My own powdered transparent gloves make my fingers look desiccated. A thought, parallel to a fuzzy pink gas mask sported by a fellow strolling 20 feet away. 50 masks for $70 at the stationery store on A, if you ask. Grayish blue in intent, a whole other present. My idea of a sentence, a summary of daily briefings delivered by rainbow buntings. The horseshoe bar selling drinks to go to a politely spaced line. And when the dawn, distracted from its game of catch with figure and ground, speaks, I just keep listening to this fish, aghast at the split fins I and we call legs. I hear sitting in these fins. Sunlight, a costume of horizontal neon bars, early pandemic bloom lines coming through cracks the clouds briefly perform. And then I'm going to just read a few pages from a piece called Wobble Factory, which actually is a self-published PDF. And if anybody's interested, I can email it to you. I'll post my email in the chat. I won't take it personally if nobody responds. From Wobble Factory. Live in the agency of self-deprecation, just to mean differently, one another after the other. I wish I could have gotten what it was not to know what was ongoing, to on-gone. The scroll refuses as form encapsulation. Sinister, splayful, and gruff. Devious, echoat, and fluff. Really small comment you didn't put out a floor for us the way surveillance enhances our experience of loneliness, or that I am uninterested in being further smothered by a certain spurious sensitivity. And who is the projection of, if not the self in multiples? What if, death aside, we're not doomed, or ungone? Is doom underrated, overrated, or properly rated? Bent pipe sticking out of calm lake. Water is so loaded, Can't say I make work for the survivalist community. I can't remember if preemptive self-criticism is more of a pre- or post-9/11 phenomenon, what with all the conversation we no longer get to have, and now disjunctivized sitting's too hard. Even when pushed down into the furniture, into the future manifesting as carcass. Is it or them manifesting or masquerading? Is the masquerade art? Is what is means? God damn it, Mr. 90s. Growth is terrific, unless you can't get rid of it. Though alienation may be a new form of relic, I do believe in reverties, yes. Even if the last year in particular, blubbers dripping on the bystand, been pretty rough, a buzzer sound forever. Doesn't have to be bamboo, a bunch of things inside a tube, to get beyond sets of choices as a proportion of surface batting around this identity construct. An inversive threat, a target as a late mask, an early task of tearing into finning. I wish upon you what I wish upon nobody, a scale that is out of your control, and that truckload of paraphernalia that would burden you to be overly conscious of. Don't you think 2 minutes on the Enigma fantasy scale is a little short for a tribute? When we met, we talked about what it is to observe, and over here we encourage you to breathe, to not be that chased rabbit running around the perimeter of your studio. I don't like long atmospheric slides into a level horizon either. The cost of eggs on her mind. Up in staves, bones, olives, masonry, insight fret, all level rotation. Introversion is the only pure form of self-destruction left. To keep away from this addiction to hooks, disturbing twist, is a title you should obviously use. Arch logistics, if any such they had. Watching Dora pop back into animated head in an unburning Amazon windshield. Every there is no windshield is its own point of view. Canvas, model, perspective, nonstop. I close my eyes. Hey, little numbers floating away. I see a red flickering at the center of an orange and yellow I put there, to take to target and buy and drop and buy and drop, out of a Vivian Springford painting, and cue you up to polite voices. The flickering is a portal, to prove memory is not my complete enemy. What's up with that summer hummus, which I am allowed to witness but not enter? Did you know we're everybody's enemy? And memory. I walk the wealthy streets that were broken streets. Canvas is bricks. You're never okay with the snapshot, with all the little thes leading into listening, lending listening to a who gets to let themselves talk to you. Hey, cut off. Hey, hydrant. Hey, fin, blowing up to our feet. Hey, Dolphy. Hey, Molly Adams, talking to me like neighbors talk when being close is private sounds through the walls. We pay something to share. We're talented at leaving little lists along the way. If I can't do evil, you can't do funky, I had to say to Jay, talking about types of sorbet. That's good, thanks.
Thank you, Anselm. Thank you. Our next reader is Rae Armantrout. Rae won the Pulitzer Prize and the National Book Critics Circle Award in 2010 for verse. The rest of her bio is in the chat. Rae Armantrout.
Hi. Hello. Am I going to be full screen?
Yeah, you can speak a little louder. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to read from a forthcoming book called Conjure, and then also some newer stuff. Conjure. How did the synthesis cross the abyss? In a sentimental story, there is only one of something. One newborn, one moment, one once embalmed in myrrh. All I want is not to be first on one side, then the other, but to conjure a stream of sounds and images for which I am not responsible and maneuver within it, mouth and tail, one thought. The sea now full of cannibal jellies, blue if the sky says so. Pinocchio. This was in the anthology, I think. Pinocchio, strand, string. In this dream, the paths cross and cross again They are spelling a real boy out of repetition. Each one is the one real boy. Each knows he must be wrong about this, but he can't feel how. The fish and the fisherman, the pilot, the princess, the fireman, and the ones on fire. Speculative fiction. The idea that producing a string of nonsense syllables while pointing toward an object may cause that object to change is common in children on the verge of language. The idea that force exists only as an interaction between objects, while an object is a kind of kink in a force field. The idea that if one survives X number of years, one will live to see how things turn out, or even that things end well. In the future, we will face new problems. How will we represent the variety of human types once all the large animals are gone? As sly as a mother? As hungry as an orphan? Notice the way a gesture used to ward off trouble became cheerful waving. There was so much looming and vanishing to take note of, always. We felt like play actors before we knew what we were about, and after. Turns out the mummy's curse is real. You pump thick death out of the ground and burn it, it kills you. But in all the movies, curses are a cheap plot trick. The doofus who can't read the hieroglyph dies first, and no one misses him, them. We were born yesterday. We're sorry. Hang on. Domestic as an empty shopping cart parked on a ledge above a freeway. Artifactual as an acorn barnacle. What is the purpose of barnacles? People ask the internet. Barnacles are filter feeders. They're fish tank decor. A plaque of barnacles on top of a toilet. This cluster of brittle puckers clinging to its old idea. These craters striped pale lavender for some unlikely eye. This is a newish one. The sleep problem. If there's anything I can do to help me, I said. That's not what I meant. I must hold my intention in my mind's eye, or it will go astray. I must remember to intend to hold it tenderly. Kickety-doo-dah, I say, when you flop over in bed thrashing. Meaning zippity-broo-ha-ha in a language I keep forgetting you don't speak. A sentence begins and ends in the present, but on the way we need to hurry. Zippity-doo-dah is a slave song commissioned by Walt Disney. Elmer Fudd aims his blunderbuss, his boundless abstract rage. How to disappear. You had been swinging restlessly between the appearance of spontaneity and the appearance of serious thought. You had been changing lanes after a glance in a mirror honest about its tendency to distort. What choice did you have? It was soothing to watch wisps of smoke from a nearby chimney disappearing one by one. Do you like pulses, ridges, ripples, stretching into obscurity? Would you prefer a flicker to a steady light source? This one stutters slightly, hesitant, as if it could hold something in reserve. on growth. Dressed all in plastic, which means oil, we're bright-eyed, scrambling for the colored cubes spilled on the rug's polymer. Inside each is a tiny car. When we can't unscrew the tops, we cry for help. We're optimists. To sleep is to fall into belief. Airing even our worst suspicions may be pleasurable. We are carried, buoyed. In sleep, the body can heal itself, grow larger. Creatures that never wake can sprout a whole new limb, a tail. This may be wrong. Surprise, surprise. It began with sensing difference. But since mind is the gape of surprise propped open, we can stop and think. If comparisons are sketchy, what about contrasts? Since mind is the gape of surprise propped open, we get bored. What's the good of that? Since mind is the gape of surprise propped open, a roller coaster has been placed between those painted lips. I keep rolling this lozenge around on my tongue. Where's the good in it? Okay, 2 more. Buy-in. Yes, we did ask to be born. Not all of us, of course, only the first few. They must have bought in to this round-robin duress, the gasp, the gnawing hunger, then the actual gnawing. Maybe they did it the way we'd put on a corset or toe shoes one night and feel fabulous. To be able to repeat themselves must have seemed like such a thrill at first. But who were they, if not that trick, that breathless pirouette? Okay, and this is the last one. Our days. In Chuck's dream, a strange woman is smoking in our kitchen. She's doing her best, she says, exhaling into the oven. Then 3 military men burst in without knocking. They say they've come to establish order, but their uniforms are strange. Chuck suspects they're really salesmen. Their leader stands too close as he begins his pitch, close enough to spread a virus. I take a photo of a house painted half blue, half pink. Why am I drawn to things that make no sense? Or is their sense excessive? You need to decontextualize an object in order to see it, I once said. Last sloth in a pocket of rainforest. Exquisite scent of hyacinth wafted on the wingless breeze. Okay, that's it.
Thank you, Rae. It's beautiful. I want to remind the audience that they can pin Elizabeth Castagna's video while you hear words, because there were some incredible crossovers from what Rae was saying to what Elizabeth was doing with her images. Our next performer is Stephen Vitiello. Stephen, again, his full bio is in the chat, but he has a recent CD called Slow Machines, which is a collaboration with Michael Rigoni on the 12K label. Stephen?
So far, my backyard is performing well. We'll see how it goes.
I'm sorry? Wow. Thank you, Stephen. Thank you. Our last reader is Annie Samojedny. Annie teaches craniosacral balancing at Integrative Healing and Bodywork. Her bio is in the chat room again. Annie?
Yes. How are you?
Come on in, enter the room.
Room, Edwin. Thank you for this beautiful opportunity.
A little louder, please, okay?
Yeah. Thank you for this beautiful opportunity. Is that good?
Yes, a little more even.
Let me come closer. Is that better?
Yes, thank you.
Oh my goodness, that music was such a beautiful setup for me. Thank you, Stephen, and thank you everyone else. Just beautiful work. I am not a prolific writer. I'm in the healing arts, and I'm going to share reflections from my heart with the work that I'm doing in this time. I just want to extend blessings and compassion for those who have passed and the suffering of their loved ones, as well as to all of us who have been affected by these chaotic times. We are all here together, de-institutionalized, disoriented, uprooted from what we've known and where we have been, without a grasp of what's to be. The high-speed chase for life has halted. Mass consumerisms, distractions, mindless movement just drops. So we're in the sacred in-between of this time. It's a fertile ground of possibilities. It has huge potential. It's here where we are now that potential for change and transformation exists. Raising our consciousness, raising our vibrational frequency, raising each other. We have this time and space to go inside our hearts and connect with our truth, our visions, our inner light, and plug into our senses, our sensations, our bodies, our earth and spirit, whatever that is for all of us and each of us. And we have this opportunity to really plug into each other. People asking questions, when will this be over? When can I go back to work, to school? And in fact, we have an opportunity to go into our hearts and ask new questions. Who am I? Who would I like to be? What vision would I like to create, to manifest? What can I heal? What can I let go of so I can move forward in a new life? The only way out is to go in. Humanity is our capacity for empathy and love and creativity. We can create a new way of life in moving forward. I have had visions of our Earth, and in my visions, she's taking this volcanic breath. She's been so hot. And now she's showing us how quickly she can regenerate in the absence of our disregard. Skies and waters are clearing, sea levels are lowering, animals emerging everywhere, and the birds are singing so magically, so vibrant. The earth is cooling. And I really feel I can feel the potential for love, but it's a special kind of love. It's the love of care, loving care. The healing is in the feeling. We're not just our minds, we're everything. Loving care is what I see is here to restore our time. Loving care of our planet, ourselves, our connections with the universe, our connections with each other. Slowing down, the pace of slowing down has given us a gift of restoring our sensations and awarenesses of how much do we really need to have and how much do we really need to do. Do we need a 40, 50, 60-hour work week? Do we need such consumerism and so many activities? It's this time to go in this in-between time that's so precious, to listen to our hearts and to ground our hearts. in this time. Connecting with our inner light is so important, and to connect with our ultimate house, which is Mother Earth, with our universe and each other in loving care, raising our consciousness, raising our vibration. Fear is the absence of light. Stay in the light. Be your light. When people come to me, that's what I try to do, is I help find their light and connect, help them find their light and connect with opportunities and potential to break patterns. When we break patterns, we have change and transformation. And now we have global patterns that have been broken. It's a huge opportunity, and I invite all of us to go in and find our light and envision the changes, the possibilities of loving care of this time. And those are my reflections that I really wanted to share intimately with all of you and the audience. And
Annie, I know you mentioned that you want to end with a drum meditation. Before we get to that, I wanted to ask you, as craniosacral therapist, whose practice is about touch.
yes.
How that's changed for you, how that approach. I spoke to Kristen yesterday about that briefly, and I'm curious about how you perceive that role change.
So how am I working right now? Is that your question?
Without touch, yes.
So by going in and cultivating the ability to connect outside this three-dimensional realm, connecting to the energy matrix and all the energy bodies, doing distance work, I can do sessions on Zoom where I'm face-to-face and I still do a check-in with people. And then once we find a place and space that we land and we have this intention, this potential that the person and I choose to work with, I help them get into meditation. I do drumming, and the drumming, listening to the in-between of the drum, that vibration really puts us in a place where we can travel outside of this time and space. And I can literally see their body in my mind's eye and go to the areas that need touch, and I can be there and do it. Excuse me?
No, you can, that you mentioned?
Oh, did you get the answer to my question, that I can work remotely?
Yes, absolutely, yes.
Be on those bones, and they feel it. I want you to know, and they don't know it. I just want to say something. So they don't know it. And then they'll tell me after it's over, my head got so hot. I felt something here, and it was like, yeah, that's where I was. So doing touch from a different place, in a different space.
Mm-hmm. Great.
So the drumming, are we ready for the drumming?
Yes.
Okay. So I invite everyone to get into a comfortable position, a meditative posture. If you're in the audience and not part of the speaking group, you can lie down. You want your spine straight for maximum connection, and you want to really close your eyes and imagine rooting down to the center of the earth. Find your light, your heart. Be with your sensations and connect with the universe. Log on to your breath. So just start really logging on to your breath. And when you hear the drum, listen to the in-between of the beats. The drum is the heartbeat of the earth. And we want to ground our hearts into the earth. And here we go.
Thank you, Annie. I am bringing back Rae and hey, Stephen, can you turn down a tiny bit?
I don't know. Let me see if I can, because I think it's now just the birds. Oh wait, yes I can. How's that better?
That's better, thank you. Yeah.
Right.
I was curious about the well, a few things. You just for a second. As the drumming was happening, I was finding myself in between spaces, and I went back to Rae's poems, where I was thinking of the space between the lines, and how the craft of knowing what to pull back and what to insert. I just found myself placing lines of poetry between drum hits. I was curious, Rae, how you approach your work in that way, where how much of yourself you allow in, and how that's changed in this pandemic.
Oh, honestly, I don't think it's changed that much over the years. I developed my line, my sense of the line pretty early on, from reading probably William Carlos Williams and Robert Creeley, to be honest. I feel like ideally I'd like, and this doesn't always happen, but ideally I'd like each line to have something interesting about it, but also maybe create a kind of suspense, and so that you don't exactly know what's going to come next.
Because then, Annie, I could imagine that drumming sometimes goes on for quite a while.
When I drum, I usually drum for 15, sometimes. It could be 10, 15, 20 minutes. When I drum for myself personally, before I do a meditation or I meditate while I'm drumming, it could be anything. I go with my own internal flow. But in general, 15, 20 minutes of drumming, you just keep going. It transports you to another place and space. It's really a heartfelt place. It's a place where we can get a deep sense of dialogue with ourselves and with divine guidance and earth elements and all the other powers that be that are here. That's where we really get to the magic of it.
And then the idea of that, for me, it's like there's the simplicity of that one hit over and over is almost at odds with. Then I go to Anselm's work, where Anselm has all this rich imagery and all these kind of characters, voices, very New York, very kind of like a lot of destruction and creation at the same time, and how they are kind of like fighting themselves to kind of get out into this form, into this page. So Anselm, I'm wondering, like, where you place yourself in the trajectory of all this.
I place myself as witness and participant and ongoing listener.
And how does that listening kind of like fall itself onto the page for you?
Well, I think, I don't know, I've been thinking recently about Anne Lauterbach's idea of the whole fragment. And I think when I was writing the Wobble Factory piece, I was interested in something like the continuous fragment, which I know is contradictory, but I was interested in an ongoing, almost ceaseless line that could incorporate multiple voices that I was sort of hearing around me. I was writing in very specific situations where lots of people were speaking and kind of taking in what I was hearing and then adding things and changing things and trying to make that. And so then, and I felt like that allowed me to create a very populated poem that also had a very particular thrust do it and could do a lot of things, because I felt like if I could continue to add without stopping, then I could get a broader picture of consciousness going across the poem and have it be visual and external, but also have it be internal.
So there's an accumulation. There's a momentum building with the energy within it, which is very reflective of this kind of majestic cosmopolitan sort of approach.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's also just about listening, and you know, I feel like listening is a skill that one can continually practice and develop. You know, and it's oral, but it's also meditative and internal, and it's about rhythm, and it's about, you know, and so I feel like I write at this point largely by listening and then letting things kind of flow through me.
That's a good segue to Stephen. So these are live. This is a field work where you have the live birds outside your window, and you're playing synthesizer with them.
Exactly. Yeah, and it's funny, but I was so worried about lawnmowers and leaf blowers, and because it's been raining so terribly today, it actually really worked to my advantage, and the birds seemed unusually happy. I don't know, also tape, I was using gaffer's tape, and the mics kept falling, and then I was thinking that was kind of a dedication to you, because when we performed together at the ICA in Richmond, we did that beautiful tape piece, and so my terrible design skills are going to claim a sculpture or something at the moment. But in any case, yeah, I was using the live birds, the live background sounds, and then just a couple percussive things that I was either playing or had pre-recorded. One with the glass marimba from Brazil, one with this bell.
So there's a lot of immediacy in what you're presenting.
Yeah, and I mean, 10 minutes I looked up and thought, uh-oh, stop. But the train had just started coming through, and so, you know, there's a natural build that could have gone on for a while, at least in my own will to be happy, but I also felt so privileged to be part of this group of people with such different backgrounds, different styles, and different concepts of poetry.
And also the idea of like coming from Anselm and Rae to you, where we were given a chance to sort of just let the words in a little more, and also look out your window through your screen. So there's all these interesting parallels happening at the same time. It's such a parallel universe that we're in. It's always been, but now it's more visual. It's visually parallel. Like there's no escaping that.
No, but I do like the sonically parallel as well.
Annie, can you talk a little bit about magic?
Magic.
Because we had conversations about magic and how magic infiltrates our reality, or if we let it.
Yeah, well, you know, look at the drum. You know, when I play the drum, I'm not trying to play a melody. I'm just connecting with the drum and the beat, and it takes on its own life, right? So it gets faster, it slows down. That is not my intentionally trying to make music. That's my connecting into this place deep inside with myself and my world. And so what ends up happening is energies come in, my guides. It could be from power animals to spirit guides, and all of a sudden there's communication that happens. There's information. There's transformation in tissue. You know, when I work with people to do healing work, and we dialogue a somatic piece with a physical aspect of their bodies, let's say it's their knee, and then we bring in the drum or a crystal or an essential oil, and all of a sudden energy starts to move and unblock and shift, and between my energy body and the person's energy body and the intention, you have this setup for alchemy where things can change. 1 + 1 doesn't always equal 2. So you leave this linear paradigm of predictability and rules and structure, and you go outside of that, and it's limitless. It's expansive. The potential is there to be expansive, to have your vibration rise, so much so that you have alchemy, and the magic is being able to go outside of yourself and those rules of structure and confines of paradigm and seek a higher place and just leave and go somewhere. And so take that however which way that works for you. So for me, it could be crystals and drumming, it could be music. For you guys, you're beautiful poets, it could be poetry, but there's something inside that can change and shift magically just by the potential that you connect with.
That's, yeah, so then I'm thinking I am thinking of Rae, where exactly the poetry and the language that comes to us, and how the vibrational pull there. The vibrational pull of the pullback and of the connection. So Rae, a question for you would be your relation to the audience. Now we're in the Zoom universe, and the audience is taking your words in a different way. How does that shift your approach to what you're working on?
Well, I think that the isolation of the last, month and a half or so has an impact. I mean, I was thinking when I was listening to Anselm about how he was talking about being in a very, can't remember the exact words, but a populated environment, and listening to all kinds of voices and how they come into his work. And I don't live in New York City, but I think that's true of me too. Actually, there are a lot of voices in my work that aren't mine and that I get from listening. And, sometimes, I mean, also, you have to listen to your own voice in your head, but I mean, sometimes other people's voices come in, and I sit in cafes or something, and or I just I'm in different environments and I look around, and that's happening so much less, and so that input from the outside is happening a lot less. Oddly, I've been writing a lot. I mean, I guess it's because, there's nothing but time now. So I've been writing a lot. But I feel like eventually this lack of contact is going to do something to me.
That's a good note to end on. Our lack of contact, and we're sort of forced into this other kind of contact now. Steven, are you saying something?
No, I'm just listening and smiling.
The birds are.
Yeah.
Thank you all for coming. Next week we go to week 2 out of 4 weeks. You can hang around a little bit afterwards, but thank you all for listening, and thank you to Anselm Berrigan, Rae Armantrout, Stephen Vitiello, and Annie Samojedny. And good night, everybody.
Thank you, Edwin.
Thanks, Edwin. Thanks for making this happen. And thank you, Liz.
Yeah.
Thank you, Liz.
Oh yeah, Elizabeth, of course, Elizabeth Castagna. She's still going there.
Thanks. It's so wonderful. It really
Thank you.
is so much.
One by one, the windows disappear. So sad.
This is the 5th time that I've been on Zoom today.
Oh my god. Are you sort of having dreams of squares in your head, like pixelated?
No, my dreams seem to all happen out in big, like, open environments, but like this dynamic where everybody leaves and waves and stuff, because I'm teaching a lot, and I'm teaching at like 3 different schools, and then doing meetings around that. So it's it's like this part when everybody leaves and waves I find it really affecting, actually.
It's better than all at once, because it's really drawing and the whole thing just disappears instantly.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Right. It's a slow pull away.
Yeah.
I'm going to sign off.
Thank you, Annie. That was great.
It's a pleasure to meet all of you.
Thank you so much.
Likewise. Hey, Charles.